am actually most excited to have this conversation, and I'm going to table this to have like a longer conversation about it later on after I do a little bit more writing on the topic. But it looks like the Wine and Chill girl is having a conversation about Emmanuel Acho, who has these other they're like tough conversations with a black man. And I saw who's the white dude with the slipper? Like, I can't even remember this dude's name now, but like, all I can remember about him is the fucking slipper. So when that mass shooting happened at the school, he literally did this. Matthew McConaughey. So Matthew McConaughey goes on the internet posting Emmanuel Acho's like conversation with the black male, and I think they have a conversation together about it. And he's like, "Oh, I finally see your perspective. Finally, make the race conversation finally makes some sense, right?" Now, I kind of agree with all of the people who kind of spoke on this topic. So Emmanuel is in this live conversation, and he's talking about how because he went to a private school or something and he was around mostly white people, that he knows how to like communicate this information about race effectively and in this honey way to white people to make them comfortable. Now, another guy that he's talking to is like, that doesn't make sense. That's actually offensive. Like, and then I think the Wine and Chill girl starts to talk about how like it's actually important to like not honey coat stuff and make stuff palatable. Here's what I will say. Every person, every human on planet Earth is having a different experience, and everybody has a fucking story. Everybody has an origin story. My family came from here. I did this. Here's my culture. Here's my religion. Here's my race. But there is a particular amount of very specific anti-black racism in America that if you are in America, it is just important for like you personally to have like your conversation with it. So if you are a black person and you're understanding it, if you are a white person and you're understanding it, if you're an Asian person and you're like wherever you land on the like, you know, topic of conversation around like your understanding of how black Americans have dealt with racism in the country, it is important. Now, I think it is really useful to have so many black people at this point get up and start to tell their own stories. And I don't think they're not all going to be palatable like Emmanuel Acho, but also I think what he's doing is useful because like the way that he's choosing to tell his personal story, right, and his personal interpretation of being a black person in society is true and is valid, and some people will relate to it. Now, there's a whole thing about like digestibility and palatability, which I think is important in regards to him, because I think the point that he was trying to make is like, well, I can convey this information in a way that is digestible, so now I can get the story heard, whereas other people couldn't. I just think that that's a problem because, first of all, like, the onus cannot be on black people to like dilute themselves in all of these ways to make it acceptable to be black. You know, like just living and having your experience should be valid enough for people of other races, other humans on planet Earth to be like, oh, you're probably experiencing something, you know, because I'm experiencing something, and like here we are both on planet Earth, and so it's very likely that we're gonna have some lived experience that's going to be similar in some way. I feel like that's like a fair assumption to make if you're just like a human person. That's fair, and I don't really feel like I'm pushing it far to be like it's acceptable to believe that, right? And where am I going with this? Because I actually had a little bit more to say about it. Yeah, I just feel like I've had my conversations about like my personal experiences, and here's the thing too that I think is just really important to understand. sometimes some people have never, like, if you start to listen to those conversations about the woman, what is her name, Jane Oliver or something, Jane, I don't know, the woman who did the brown eye blue eye experiment, and then she's been hitting the lecture circuits kind of about that and about race in America and how Martin Luther King impacted her life and all these things about like how white people are uncomfortable and blah 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 blah. Like, her story is true, but also there's like other stories of just like a lot of other people who have dealt with race, and who are white people who've dealt with race in other ways, and then black people who've dealt with race in other, like, all the stories are true. Okay. What it comes down to is mostly like policy, and then like in your own life, like, what are you doing to like either make it better or ensure that, like, yeah, how can that's the way that I want to say that. What are you doing in your own life to ensure that like you're not promoting bad behavior, and you're not like, how, yeah, that you're making a difference. But the thing that's very strange is we keep doing this thing with cancel culture where everybody's canceling everyone. So then it's like, instead of giving anyone an opportunity to reform or explain, it's like the consensus is, if black people are not communicating their struggles or whatever in the same way that Emmanuel Acho is doing it, then it's unacceptable. We can't have the conversation. Like, only if you're communicating like him, then you can have the conversation. If you're not, nope, we can't talk to you about it. It's not acceptable. And it's just like that can't be right. That doesn't make sense, you know? Dude. So, yeah. Um yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, we just have to get to like a better place, uh not a better place, but just like a space where we can have a serious conversation about race in America. Like, it does honestly feel like it's like on and on and on and on and on, and like nothing is getting better, and nothing